Siblings can share a unique bond. It's a connection that starts from childhood, and hopefully it lasts a lifetime. Yet sadly, it doesn't always. Sibling relationships are not without challenges, and being family doesn't mean that conflicts and misunderstandings don't happen. Sometimes these complicated situations can create barriers that seem like you may never be close again. And this is where radical forgiveness can come in. Forgiveness between siblings can bring an opportunity not only to heal relationships, but also help them be stronger than ever. I'll explain what I mean and share a personal story with my sister that recently died. Hi, I'm Brenda Reese, freedom and forgiveness coach, and a person just like you that is learning to navigate life and all of its challenges. I teach a forgiveness process like no other. It's a blend of practical and spiritual forgiveness. This process guides you into knowing how unforgiveness can be keeping you stuck in your relationships, both personally and professionally, and how it prevents you from releasing resentment and finding joy. Each week, I share practical and some not so practical tips, tools, and advice from myself and other people that are on this journey just like us. This is for you if you are ready to turn your pain into peace. Welcome to the Forgive Yourself podcast. Sibling relationships are some of the most impactful connections we have. They're filled with shared memories, unique dynamics, and of course, some inevitable conflicts, right? We tend to be our most authentic selves with those we feel the closest to. And that means sometimes we say and do things with the understanding that there's unconditional love and acceptance, which generally speaking means that, we depend on this family to provide us with that, no matter how we treat them. Yet we're still human. And being family doesn't mean we get to treat our siblings without respect and consideration just because we're related. Now, even though we do, and there's all sorts of reasons we do treat each other this way, siblings share a bond that's really unlike any other. Our brothers and sisters can be built-in friends and companions who help us navigate life's ups and downs, right? We learn a lot about friendships and relationships and how to interact with people through our sibling relationships. Now, in theory, we play together, we fight, we make up, and we support each other through thick and thin. We build this relationship based on shared experiences, family traditions, and countless memories. Doesn't always happen that way, but that's the theory. Now, the roles we play in our sibling order are absolutely fascinating to me. Now, you might be the protective older sibling, you might be the peacemaker middle child, or maybe the adventuresome youngest. And then you might play all three, depending upon how your family situation was growing up. For me, I experienced all of them. I was the youngest of three for the first 7 to 8 years of my life. Then my mom remarried, and this brought the total of the kids to 9. So that made me now the middle child, the peacemaker, the one that gets lost in the shuffle. And then as I got a little older in my early teen years, she got divorced again, and I became the oldest of the younger kids as she got divorced and all the other kids went their separate ways. So I experienced that protective feeling, right, as the oldest child, but also the resentment of having to take care of the younger siblings in my teenage years. Do any of you relate to that? Now, these roles that we play can shift over time, especially as we grow and our lives change. And this can actually add depth and richness to our relationships, and it can make them a source of strength and comfort. Yet, with that being said, it's no secret that some sibling relationships are not smooth sailing. I'd like to share a few common sources of conflict that I see within siblings and see if you can relate to any of them. The first source of conflict is competition and comparison. Okay. I think we all can go, oh yeah, got that one. It's natural to compare ourselves to our siblings, especially if we're close in age. This can lead to feelings of rivalry and competition, whether it's about grades or achievements or parental attention. And it's not just between siblings, because we can also find a lot of my clients, their parents compare them. Now, for my story, my two daughters were only 19 months apart. And as they grew up, my oldest daughter was always comparing herself to her sister. My oldest went through life very independent and very headstrong and spent a lot of time being grounded and in timeout. Whereas my youngest daughter was a different personality and was more mild-mannered, and she learned through others' mistakes. And she was always being told by her sister that she was a goody two-shoes. My oldest was constantly making sure she wanted them to be fair, and she would complain if it looked like her younger sister got more M&Ms than she did. It caused so much conflict in our house. Can you relate to being compared to or comparing yourself to other siblings? Yeah, it's quite common. Now, the second source of conflict is parental favoritism. Whether this is perceived or real favoritism, it can cause significant friction. Feeling like one sibling gets more attention or praise can create resentment, right? And tension. Now, this happened in my family. My older brother was the favorite, and we all knew it, and he made sure we knew it. Now, as kids, right? As kids, we recognize these favoritisms when we're small, when we're little. And we also notice that they can stick around until adulthood, right? I mean, how many holiday dinners have you had arguments over one of your siblings being the favorite, right? How many stories do you have? We had quite a few. Now, the third source of conflict is having different personalities. No two siblings are exactly alike, right? You've experienced this. There's differences in temperament, interests, and ways of handling stress that can sometimes clash, which leads to misunderstandings and disagreements. Being blood or raised by the same parents doesn't mean we are automatically similar in our wiring. Like the example of my girls. They were born very different. They came out of the womb totally separate and different. And have you noticed that about your kids or as you as siblings? Have you heard that saying, my gosh, the kids came from the same parents, raised the same way, yet they couldn't be any different. Okay, that causes some conflict, right? Now, the fourth source of conflict are life changes. Now, these can be major life events, like moving out, starting a new job, divorces, deaths in the family, which changes the whole family structure. And this can disrupt the sibling dynamic. Adjusting to these changes can sometimes cause temporary conflicts, particularly when one sibling remains close to their parents while the others don't. And the siblings can experience residual regret, and jealousy can emerge. Now, the fifth source of conflict is old wounds. Past hurts or unresolved issues from childhood can resurface in adulthood. These lingering feelings need to be addressed to move forward. This is where forgiveness matters most. Sometimes it takes you being the first to recognize your responsibility in the situation and not waiting for the other person to step forward. And this is the most challenging part. Recognizing where forgiveness can help restore relationships with empathy and a mutual desire to grow in a supportive, loving relationship for life means that we get to step up. Now, sibling rivalry and resentment is one of the major experiences I work with people. There was one client I worked with who was 73 years old and had cancer for the second time. She was at a point where she didn't want to die from cancer or have it again, and she felt it had something to do with the emotions around her sister. Now, she had not talked to this sister for over 40 years, and she couldn't even remember why exactly, except that maybe it had something to do with an old boyfriend from high school. Yet neither one of them had been willing to reach out and say, let's talk. Working with my client helped her to take responsibility for her part, and she did reach out to her sister to talk, and her sister did not want to let go of the resentment, and she still wouldn't tell my client the full reason why she wouldn't talk to her. Yet my client was able to feel peace around the situation because of the forgiveness work that we did together. And on top of that, she's enjoying being in remission. Forgiveness in sibling relationships is not just about letting go of past hurts and misunderstandings. It's also about releasing the resentment and anger that might have built up over years of conflict, like I just shared in my client's story. I really want to stress this. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It means acknowledging the pain and being willing to understand each other's perspectives and deciding to move forward with love and compassion, whether you do it together or separate. Now, in the context of siblings, forgiveness is an act of kindness towards yourself and the other sibling. It's about giving each other the grace to make mistakes and the opportunity to heal and grow together. Now, sometimes the other sibling or other siblings don't want to grow together, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you can't still grow, and it doesn't mean that you can't still extend grace, because you can. Forgiveness does have the power to transform sibling relationships in unimaginable ways, because when we forgive, we create space for healing and reconnecting. We can honor our sibling relationships, the history we've had together, and we can acknowledge that we want stronger bonds that we can count on. So let's chat about a few ways forgiveness can change our relationships with our siblings. Okay, first, healing old wounds. By forgiving, we can address and heal old wounds that may have been festering for years, like my client. This process brings relief and closure. And if all parties are willing, it can allow you and your sibling to move forward in a new joint venture that seeks to restore and fulfill you both. Now, number 2 of how it can change relationship is it can build trust, because forgiveness fosters trust. When we choose to forgive, we show our siblings that we value their relationship more than the conflict. This trust can deepen our connection and create a more solid foundation for our future together. And I do want to say this is only when it is safe to do so. If it's a toxic relationship or it's a relationship that is detrimental to you or abusive, then of course you want to do your own work and not really focus on the reconciliation. Okay. The third way that it can change relationships is that when we let go of resentment, it clears the way for more honest and open communication, right? Straight out. It just clears the way for this to happen. And it's a choice that empowers us when we make that decision to let go. It empowers us when we make that decision to let go of resentment. So without the weight of past conflicts, siblings can speak more freely, listen empathetically, and it leads to better understanding and fewer misunderstandings in the future. Now, the fourth way that forgiveness can help is it can strengthen the bond between the siblings, because forgiveness has a way of doing that. It allows us to see each other as human beings capable of making mistakes and growing from them. This perspective can foster a more profound sense of empathy and closeness. And when we combine that with the shared experiences of growing up together, it can make these relationships some of the most fulfilling we have. And the fifth one is that when one sibling takes the step to forgive, it often encourages the other to do the same. Now, not always, but a good part of the time, because I have a brother that disowned our family. And even though I reached out and made amends for what he was saying, my part, it was something that he was saying I did. And I made amends for that, taking responsibility. he still chooses to not engage with the family. When siblings are encouraged to forgive, though, it can create a positive cycle of forgiveness and reconciliation, making the relationship more resilient and supportive. In the end, forgiveness is about choosing love over conflict. It's about recognizing each other's unique and irreplaceable bond and doing the work to maintain and strengthen that bond. By embracing forgiveness, siblings can transform their relationship into one of mutual respect, deep understanding, and unwavering support. And in this way, forgiveness becomes a gift that keeps giving, right? Nurturing the sibling relationship for a lifetime. It can. Or in some cases, like my brother, I've done the work. I feel peace around the relationship. And so that relationship will not be fostered moving forward, but I still send love. Now, let's close with some of my favorite actionable steps to foster forgiveness and rebuild a supportive relationship, and also a story I'd like to share. So the first is one of my first actionable step to foster forgiveness and rebuild a supportive relationship is to start with open and honest conversations. Now, you do this by creating a safe space where both of you can express your feelings without fear of judgment. Okay, we know this one. Using I statements to share your experiences and emotions, like I feel or felt hurt when, and doing it that way, taking responsibility for it. I felt hurt, or did I misunderstand, instead of placing blame on the other person. This approach encourages constructive dialogue, and it helps prevent defensiveness. Remember, there are two sides to every conversation, and putting them both on the table will help you make the best progress. Number 2 is truly listening to each other is crucial. Focus on understanding your sibling's perspective without interrupting or formulating your response while they're speaking. I know this is a challenge. Yet being heard is something we all crave as humans. Because active listening, which means that we're not like figuring out what we're going to say next and what's our rebuttal to this and are they done yet? Because I really have something to say, right? That's not active listening. But active listening involves acknowledging their feelings and validating their experiences, even if you don't entirely agree. This can bridge the gaps in understanding and foster empathy. There's a saying about being right? Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Now, I don't advocate that you can't be both, but I do think that if you're only listening to someone to get your point across, you're not going to mend any fences. Now, number 3, keep in mind that each person has their own viewpoint shaped by their own experiences and their filters and their emotions. Yep, even your pain in the rear brother or sister, like my brother. Don't tell him. We want to try to see the situation from their perspective. And we can do this by asking questions like, can you help me understand why you felt that way? Or what was going through your mind when this happened? See, it's curiosity. And when we're more curious about someone, it's hard to really blame. And it opens up our mind and our heart to be able to listen a little deeper. When we are willing to understand their perspective, it can build empathy and pave the way for forgiveness. And you might be surprised at how they feel. Maybe you both find that whatever was said wasn't how you intended it to be, and being able to talk about it helps to mend it. The 4th is forgiveness doesn't mean allowing hurtful behavior to continue. This is huge. Setting clear, healthy boundaries is essential to protecting yourself and the relationship. Discuss what behaviors are acceptable and what are not. Boundaries can help prevent future conflicts and create a sense of safety and respect in your relationships. And really, at the end of the day, boundaries will make you both feel secure in where you stand with each other. Boundaries are good. You can ask yourself, what am I available for and what am I not available for? Now, number 5, this one may make you cringe. Yet, a sincere apology can go a long way. And acknowledging the pain caused and taking responsibility for our actions, please don't turn this off just yet, really opens the door to create a more healthy and loving relationship if that's what you want. A heartfelt apology shows that you recognize the impact of your behavior and are committed to making amends. When you feel that you're in the wrong or could have said or done something differently, let me preface it with that. You're not going to make an apology, a heartfelt apology, if you don't feel what you did was wrong. But if you think about it, you've looked at it, you want to really be sure, like, okay, I'm willing to take responsibility. Maybe I said it wrong or I acted because I was upset. That's where you want to come from. A heartfelt apology is an essential step in the healing process. Even if you're not sure your behavior was the issue, this is your sibling, and hopefully you love them. And I really think that you probably don't want them to feel pain any more than they want that for you. So even at a minimum, let your love for them shine through as you tell them you're sorry for their heartache and any part you may have had in it. Number 6, this is one that is near and dear to my heart, which is holding on to grudges only prolongs the pain. Having a forgiveness practice is so important, and it's a practice. It involves sharing your story and having it witnessed by a coach who specializes in forgiveness or a therapist. It is being able to separate the suffering from actually the factual things that happened, and then being able to reframe the situation so you can then focus on the positive aspects of your relationship and how you want to move forward. Letting go of resentment can be the first true step to reconciliation. And even if you're not reconciling, letting go of resentment is the first step to feeling emotionally free for you. Now, number 7, acknowledge that forgiveness is a process and it takes time. Be patient with yourself and your sibling as you work through your feelings. Celebrate small steps forward and be kind to yourselves when setbacks occur. Now, the journey towards forgiveness is not always a straight road, right? It's not always linear, but every effort counts. Every authentic attempt to reconcile or to heal yourself is one you consider an investment in a better, more profound bond. Okay. Number 8, we're almost there. Number 8, trust is a vital component of any relationship. Rebuilding trust after a conflict requires consistency, honesty, and reliability. Show through your actions that you are committed to the relationship and that you value your siblings' trust. This kind of goes for all relationships right here when we're building trust. Number 9, shared experiences can help rebuild your bond and create new positive memories. So you can do things together, right? Take a trip or just do something that you used to like to do. Simply spending time together can strengthen the connection. And number 10, if you feel that the hurt is something bigger than what can be dealt with through these steps that we've talked about, please do not be afraid to seek guidance from a forgiveness coach, a life coach who specializes in forgiveness, or a licensed therapist, because you are worth showing up completely in your life. And when we are holding resentments or conflict within us, it diminishes our power. Now, conflict and awkward relationship situations are a part of life. Still, when you navigate forgiveness to help heal wounds between your siblings and yourself, you can come out on the other side with a stronger, more resilient relationship that can continue to grow deeper through the years. Thanks for listening, and I'd really like to know what you thought about this episode and if you found it helpful. I'd love to know. Take care. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, would you do me a favor and share this episode and then follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss one episode of the Forgive Yourself podcast, where every Friday you will get tips, tools, and stories so that you can turn your pain into peace. Take care.